Hi, and welcome to Spiritual Alchemy Energy, the podcast with Julie. Tonight we have Lisa Rizzoli with us. Thank you for coming back this week again, and we're giving this a shot again.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for having me. It feels so good to be here right now.
I'm so honored. You have so much wisdom to share with everybody. Don't know where to start. I would love to start with maybe Kundalini energy.
You want to talk about Kundalini energy?
You can speak to that.
Okay. That's a big subject. Kundalini is a huge subject. So that we have different aspects of Kundalini energy. Like we have the big Kundalini energy with the big K, which is basically, spirit coming into the body. And it's the energy that animates this physical body and is part of who we are and what we do. And then there's the Kundalini energy also with the little K, also animating the body. But we think about like Kundalini yoga, where we're activating that energy. And I think of it more as like sexual energy and getting that flow through the body. But the Kundalini energy, when we're doing like Kundalini yoga, is really tapping in and opening up the channels in the body, the different various nadis and channels that energy flows through, opening those up so that energy flows a lot more freely and easily, and activating those bits and pieces of what it is. I think Kundalini also has a buzzy kind of thing because people talk about Kundalini energy and a Kundalini awakening. And when people have a Kundalini awakening, sometimes that can be a really scary thing. And a lot of people talk about how scary Kundalini is, but it's not. When it's activated freely and allowed to flow freely through the body, it's a really powerful experience. And in my case, where I've had these Kundalini awakenings, it's like when it happens, there's a gift that is given with it. So, for example, one time I had an experience where I was blown open. I was having this deep, deep spiritual experience. Everything and all of my senses were heightened. It was really hard to handle and to cope with in the beginning. But as I walked through each day, like I could see little particles and little bits and pieces in the sky, and I had to learn how to create the filters again so that I could be in this world and do the things that I need to do in the world, while at the same time having these gifts. And one of the gifts that I was given and granted with that was the ability to see energy. So I like when I'm working with people, I can see the energy and how it flows through their body.
Oh, cool. Very cool. We're still losing each other. So, sorry about that. But, so that's the Kundalini energy. How does that tie in with the Tantra?
So with Tantra, I mean, Tantra really is a spiritual practice, and it's a spiritual path that we are getting to recognize our true self through these different modalities of what Tantra brings to the table. Oftentimes with Western Tantra, or you'll hear Neo-Tantra out there right now. Neo-Tantra, again, is another buzzword for what's happening in the West. And the Western traditions around Tantra is really emphasizing the sexual aspects of what Tantra, the pieces of Tantra. The thing that's so sexy and appealing to Westerners is that we have this connection to, or a disconnect actually from sexuality, right? There's all the stuff that has happened that has made sexuality like this bad thing, or this, there's a lot of stigma on sexuality. There's a lot of guilt and shame on sexuality. So sexuality, when we hear it in a spiritual context, we're like, what? what does that mean? What is that? Where does that come from? And so we want to know more. And in this aspect, what we're doing is telling people that one of the quickest ways to awakening is to use your sexual energy as a tool for your spiritual awakening, which also comes into that whole bit of where the Kundalini rises. We're activating the Kundalini, little k, that sexual energy, moving that through our bodies, awakening ourselves and getting to feel more into the body. And that's on the very, very basic level, in the very beginning stages of it. As we progress through this more and we start learning more about Tantra and the spirituality of what Tantra is, we start diving deeper and deeper into the realms that guide us into this place of recognizing our true self.
How can someone start on this path?
Well, first and foremost, I think that anybody who wants to step into the Tantra path needs to, or, do a little research on that. Find someone who can help guide you on that path that you really resonate with, that talks to you in a way that feels good to you, that you're able to really connect with on a deeper level. If you just go to somebody and you do this thing, it doesn't always work if you're constantly fighting and being against it. So in my programs, what I teach, the first thing to do is that you get to learn to love yourself. And part of that is I have a beautiful practice called Loving Myself Awake. And every morning I do this practice of loving myself awake. If you go to my website that I have on the screen, letstalktantra.com, in that website, you'll see there is a guided meditation that'll take you through that whole process of loving myself awake. And that's something that you get to do every day, because the more that you do it and you start incorporating your own style and technique, but in the beginning you wanted to follow the guided version until you really grasp it and start really incorporating it and embodying it. Once you have that embodiment, then you can start expanding and feeling into other parts of your body around this, and how you can go even bigger, allow your intuition to come in. When we're doing that piece, we're learning more about energy, because that's one of the key practices that we get to explore in Tantra is energy. So I always tell everybody, you got to be the master of your own energy before we start really connecting with another person's energy.
I'm sorry, we keep going in and out. But we're getting through this. So with all of that being said, and the reason why I had you come on this month is because of Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And so, maybe you can share with us some ways that single people, couples can integrate this into their lives, maybe without going to a teacher or practitioner.
Sure. And especially since it is Valentine's Day on Sunday, let's up that energy and play in that juicy, yummy space. So right now, with things that are going on, I do have a program called Soulful Intimacy for Couples. Obviously, that's for couples. And they get to have, there's some practices in there. There's some fun things to just juice up the relationship and come into this other place. It's not about all this processing and all the things. It's the fun stuff. It is like activating and playing and getting to be there. And so one of the things that I've been sharing in my group on Facebook, I have a group called Tantra Talk. And in that group, we've been talking about like what is sexy food? Tell me a sexy food. So Julie, can you tell me a sexy food? What is something a sexy food when I say that to you?
Avocados.
Avocado. Okay. So think of an avocado and you cut it open, right? And I want you to drop in and just really be in your imagination right now of what the avocado looks like on the outside first, and just feel that avocado in your hands. And we've all felt an avocado. We know that it's kind of ridgy and the skin is a little bumpy and it's all of those things. And you can smell it and have that sensation and feel like, what does an avocado smell like before you cut it open? What is that scent? What is the scent? What is the texture that you're noticing by touching it? And then we're going to take a knife and cut it. And then how exquisite it is to have this huge pit right in the middle, and feeling into that, and then pulling those two parts apart. And then get to really come into the juiciness of what this avocado is. And maybe you take a little slice and you gently put it on your tongue and just let it, the flavor of the avocado explode in your mouth. And you can have a mouthgasm, if you will, by doing this with even more presence and slowness. With food, what we tend to do, and it's not just food, but a lot of things in our lives, we tend to hurry through them. And what would it take for you to slow down, to take that breath, to take a moment to slowly cut into the avocado instead of quickly slicing it? What if you slowly cut into the avocado and you feel all the different sensations that are possible and aware for you in that moment of opening this avocado? If I was with my lover, maybe I take a piece of that avocado and I feed it to my lover. And we have this moment of gazing into each other's eyes as they take that piece, that juicy, succulent morsel into their mouth, and let it just slowly melt into the mouth, and having all the flavors open up into the body. Because that's what this body's for. This body is this amazing organism that has all these senses. And with each and every sense, we build our reality. And so let's take a moment to slow it down and build it on several layers, layer upon layer upon layer of sensual sensations, so that we can expand more in our hearts and compassion. When we have the eye gazing going between the two of us, it creates a certain bond and a web, and it actually will help us engage and activate those neurochemicals that bring us into that connection, that weaving of energy and flow between us. So we want to make sure that we have the eye gaze. And at first, eye gazing feels a little like, whoa, that's a little wonky. So I'm going to give you a little hack on the eye gazing. Gaze into your partner's left eye. So sometimes I need to have them raise their left hand. And I know I feel like I'm reversed on the screen that I'm looking on. So it looks like my right hand, but that's my left hand. And my left hand is raised. And then I can just gaze at my partner's left eye. That helps me to stop trying to bounce between the both eyes and do all that. And I can focus in that eye. And then we breathe together. And one person receives a bite of the morsel of whatever it is that we're eating. And then let them have that full experience, continuing with that eye gaze, that connected place. And then the other person gets to be the receiver. And slowly have a meal like that, feeding each other and playfully getting into it. Activate that childlike curiosity, because when we come into the childlike curiosity, we give ourselves that beginner's mindset. We come into a place of beginner's mind. Like, yeah, you know what an avocado tastes like, and you can just blow this off and eat the avocado really quickly and be done with it. Or you can take moments to sensually experience the sensations. What sounds good to you?
That sounds awesome. Unfortunately, I keep losing you back and forth.
Oh,
But because I really want to hear what you have to say, and I want to ask follow-up questions.
maybe you should watch on the streamed in version.
Right? I'm like, is my computer like done downloading? That's why I'm on my phone. And I'm looking at my battery. I'm going, oh my goodness. But I'm just trying to be present and in the moment and enjoy this.
Good.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Next question. So we're alivening the senses. Oh no, this is not going to work on there. Oh, power mode. You're here?
I'm here.
Okay. So that's with, there's a connection there. What about bringing in smell to this?
Right. That's part of it, right? We're experiencing all of our senses with food in this particular, experiment is with food. Or, for example, if you wanted to add, the more that we can bring the senses in and awaken each and every one of our senses, slows us down, enables us to take it into the moment and be really present with ourselves and with our partners in the very moment. So senses are super powerful. We know that the olfactory sense
Especially
activates
smell
that part
and
of our
taste
brain
and
that
touch.
really awakens us. Were you saying something?
I'm sorry. This Mercury retrograde has been, I'm trying not to let it get the best of me. So what would you share? I know you share a lot on your group, in your group on Facebook. What would you share? What's a really powerful thing for couples to do, not just for Valentine's Day, but every day?
I believe every day when I work with clients, I tell my couples that one of the things that is so vitally important in maintaining the relationship and having that connection and remembering the love that you two share between you is to have that 5 minutes every day, sometimes more, but at least 5 minutes every day of that eye gazing and breathing together, because it helps you to recalibrate and come back into a space. So it's nice to do it first thing in the morning, but it's also nice to do it when like you've been apart for a while. Like if somebody goes to work, then when they come home, we can come together, have that moment of eye gazing, taking nice, big, deep inhales and exhales together to recalibrate and come back into coherency with one another, because we've been doing other things. Now we want to bring our relationship back into this place and have a moment of just connecting. So initially, I tell people to try the eye gazing for a minute. Start with a minute, and if a minute's too much, start with 30 seconds. But as you continue to do this, you will be able to eye gaze for longer and longer and longer, and work yourself up to the 5 minutes. No talking, leave the words out, just take nice deep inhales and exhales together. It helps, it really does help for you to bring that coherency back into your relationship.
Not just with your intimate partner, but probably even your children.
You could do that with your kids. You can do it. We did it all the time with our children, and even our friends and stuff. Sometimes when we would sit together and just say, hey, let's have a moment of eye gazing and connect in that way, and there's something really special that happens. That's one of the things that I've been really exploring and expanding my own understanding of energy. Now, in my head, in theory, I knew that energy has no boundaries. Energy doesn't know about space and time. That's all human constructs, and we create this like limiting belief that energy can only do whatever. But what I've learned is by being on these Zoom calls and on these different video calls and conferences, how much I can connect with somebody on the screen even and come into a deeper place of awareness. So I have it's interesting. And so one of the things that I do is I teach a Yoni egg class. So it's a stone egg and it goes inside the Yoni, which is Sanskrit word for vulva, but the egg goes into the vaginal canal. But in order for women to do this, they got to have an egg. And so what I have a practice call or a class, or not a class, a call that is the intuitive Yoni egg selection. And in that process, we come together on the screen and we actually connect. And there is a bond that happens between the two of us, and we choose the egg together. And obviously, I'm putting my hand in the bag to choose the egg. She's the one that's tapping into her womb wisdom, and she knows if this egg is right for her or not. And then I mail the egg to her, and it's always the most perfect egg. Everyone who gets this egg is so ecstatic. They feel that connection between the two of us. And then at the end, we disconnect. That's always super important too, is that we disconnect. I pull my energy back. She pulls her energy back. And then we come into that space of, okay, this is me. And I get to be me and have this really sweet, sweet connection.
That's awesome.
It's great.
That's really cool. I don't like other people picking my crystals for me.
Well, and it's not somebody else picking your crystal.
I know.
We're weaving our energy together.
Right. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did a live stream, Yoni Steam. It was my third podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a little bit about eggs then.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to expand on the use of Yoni eggs?
Sure. I can talk about it. I actually don't do Yoni steaming. I do Yoni smoking, because the practice that I learned was in Bali. And in Balinese culture, it's a Yoni smoking with certain herbs. And I'm very connected with the Balinese people. So I work with a woman who is she's a Balinese princess. Her grandfather was one of the last kings before the Dutch came in. So she's royalty, and I love her dearly. She's my sister. She's my Balinese sister. And so she taught me about this Yoni smoking. And again, it's done with herbs, and it's there for it's a ritualistic practice that's done for, like if you're going to get married, or if you were having problems getting pregnant. These are some of the practices that they do to help open up those channels in the Yoni and bring this in. It's a very interesting sensation that happens when you actually do a Yoni smoking. Now, I've added in drumming with it so that I'm creating a vibration that goes with it. So the smoke actually, I have several women who've told me that they feel like they could blow and smoke would come out. Now we know that's really not going to happen, but they can taste the herbs that the smoke is creating, and it's just a unique experience. So I do Yoni smoking, and as far as the eggs go, I don't know. We're on live on your page. So this is a large Yoni egg. I use this for demo purposes so that people can really kind of see. But these are stone eggs, and my eggs come from India. I have a man who handcrafts the eggs with the intention that they will go to that this egg is being made for a specific yoni. So this is the perfect egg for that yoni, and that person is going to find it. And that's part of the magic of what we're doing when we're doing this yoni egg selection. Yoni egg has been around for centuries, and it's been actually called jade egg originally, originated in China and used among the emperor's concubines so that they could really learn the skills of mastery of the yoni. Part of when we're talking in tantric sex, or and this makes much more sense all the way around. But instead of in tantric texts, what we're seeing is that, it's not about the man using his lingam, his penis, as a thrusting rod, but actually allowing the yoni to slowly bring that lingam into the yoni, to have this exquisite experience of being manipulated and touched and moved through the yoni by these musculature activities. And so it's a really sweet practice that you get to activate those pelvic floor muscles. Now, that's all great, and it sounds awesome. Like for sex, it's fantastic, and it's all those things. But there's also another added benefit, that when we have a toned pelvic floor, then we are also maintaining pelvic floor health. And a toned pelvic floor doesn't mean that it's tight. That's not it. Actually, if you have too much tightness in those pelvic floor muscles, it will cause other problems. So we want to learn how to have contraction, squeezing, and how to have relaxation, opening, expanding, and also a little bit of a push, because the pelvic floor muscles are one of the only muscles in the body. There's another muscle, but we're just going to work on the pelvic floor muscles that are designed to have a push in them. So a slight push, not a bear down, grunting push, but a slight push is helping those pelvic floor muscles stay toned and healthy, which is what we need. And especially as we get older, because we start having problems with our pelvic floor, we start seeing different kinds of issues showing up in the pelvic floor as women age and lose the tone of the pelvic floor, because we're not actively maintaining this part of our muscular body.
I'm sorry, I lost you. So I lost you again. Could you just keep talking about the pelvic floor?
Yeah. So no problem. I'll keep going with it. So again, the pelvic floor, and we're learning in the classes that I teach about female anatomy of arousal. I teach about female anatomy of the whole vulva area, not stuff that you're taught in school, not stuff that you're taught in even, anatomy classes. It's amazing to me that some of these things have not been taught over the years. But that's what we're doing now. What we're doing is opening up this avenue so that people can step in and learn more about what it is to be a woman and to have these body parts. And for men, getting to learn all the intricate details of the yoni and how amazing this part of a woman's anatomy is, instead of just focusing on, the basics. Like, let's go deeper into what those places are. So yoni egg helps us to activate those pelvic floor muscles and to bring more awareness into the pelvic floor so that we can have more sensation. When we have more sensation, we can connect those neural pathways to the brain and activate more pleasure in the body with each and every opening that we have through doing some of these practices. The egg helps us to identify, like, when we have an egg in, then we can squeeze and go, where's the egg? Where's the egg now? And what am I feeling? What am I sensing? What's happening in my body? And the more that we do that, the more we become in tune with the body, and we're activating and awakening those neural pathways, so that we're creating that feedback loop from the brain to the yoni.
Awesome. Now, as far as the male anatomy, are there any, I mean, we have exercises. Do they have exercises as well?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
They do. They have pelvic floors as well, with the pelvic floor muscles. So the more that they learn about their musculature in the pelvic floor, again, helping to keep their bodies healthy and vital, is, when they're doing these pelvic floor squeezes, they can actually squeeze in the pelvic floor and locate their prostate. When you're squeezing on your own prostate, guys, this is super yummy and juicy, because a prostate is erogenous, is an erogenous zone. You can have orgasm from prostate stimulation. So this is another piece for them to learn how to squeeze on that prostate and activate that prostate, as well as keeping it healthy and toned, because we're seeing more and more issues around prostate cancers and problems with PSA and all of these things. We want to keep that part of the body activated and awakened. And one of the techniques in doing that is by doing these squeezes in the pelvic floor. But again, it's the same thing with the women. It's not just a squeeze. You don't want to constantly be squeezing. You want to be squeeze and relax. Squeeze and relax. Squeeze and relax, and a little push here and there. And then that's bringing on more sensations in the body, and also for men to be aware and conscious of, like, what does my prostate feel like? So that when you're squeezing, can you squeeze and feel your prostate? Women too, can you squeeze and feel your cervix? These are possibilities, and we can do this because we know that this is possible. Also for men, when they're working in the pelvic floor and activating those parts of the pelvic floor, what they can do is create a bounce in their lingam, or when they have an erection, right? They create a bounce so that they can tap. And when you learn how to tap, then when you're having sex, not when you're thrusting, that's not it, but when you're actually having sex and you're in stillness, and he taps on the woman, he's tapping on her G spot, right? Or urethral sponge, really. He's tapping on that spot. That feels really good to women. And when a man can really learn how to activate that part, when he's inside and he's doing this tapping motion, then it actually feels like it's expanding our whole yoni. And this is part of where we come up with this term of yoniverse. So there's an expansion in the yoniverse, and it's an exquisite feeling of being held and supported and loved and connection. So it's a beautiful place to be.
I'm sorry, I had my mic off. So even older people over the age 40, 50 can practice this and bring back maybe something that they lost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, the more you do these practices in your pelvic floor, the more that women do them, the more the men do them. We're just creating healthy tone musculature in the pelvic floor. It's the same thing as with your bicep. I mean, the bicep is made to lift and do different things. The pelvic floor isn't made to lift. The pelvic floor is flat muscles in the bottom of the bowl of the pelvis, and they're there to help maintain our organs and keep our organs inside of our bodies. and to keep kind of everything in place, as well as move our muscles or move our bones and our skeletal structure. But they're there to support and hold us in this place. So they're important for us to keep these muscles toned and healthy, so that we, as we get older, that we continue to do that. What happens as we get older is our muscles start atrophying, and all the things that happen with aging, we slow down. Our metabolism slows down. We don't do, I can't keep up with the 20-year-olds, There was a
Heck
time
no.
I was keeping up with the 20-year-olds, and I did it for a really long time. But now I'm 55 now, and I don't quite keep up with the 20-year-olds. I still do a lot because I'm a very active, animated person, and I like to be on the go. But if I was going for a hike, am I going to be able to keep up with that person? I don't know, maybe, because I'm pretty active and I can do it. But I need to keep my musculature tone and healthy. And as we get older, we tend to become more sedentary. So get off your butts, or if you are on your butt, squeeze in your pelvic floor, And what I teach in my class is, that it's not just about the squeeze. It's also about the breath. It's about the intention. It's about visualization, and it's about sounding, right? Those are all key components of what we're doing when we're doing these squeezes in the pelvic floor. So it's not just a squeeze, because there's so much more to it than just squeezing. You can get by with just squeezing, but you're going to have a bigger, better experience if you add the other components in.
Fantastic. Can you tell us about some of your classes?
Sure. So I have the intuitive Yoni egg selection, which is a 20-minute call with me where we connect through a video conference call. We connect and we choose the perfect egg for you. Obviously, this is for women, and we're going to choose the egg for you. In that, then you get that egg mailed to you or shipped to you. And part of the proceeds of that go to a charity called More to Her Life, which is a charity that helps women who are coming out of domestic abuse relationships. And so it's very near and dear to my heart. I come from a place of domestic abuse in my past, and this woman that I know has now created this charity, and it's a beautiful thing. I love giving back to the community, and I love helping. So that's my favorite thing that I'm doing right now, is this intuitive Yoni egg selection. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super important. I think it's important that we give back to the community. Then the second part is the Explore Your Pelvic Floor Yoni Egg Womb Wisdom, which is a class to teach women how to take care of this yoni egg, this yoni egg, how to take care of it, and what to do with it. Some practices that you do with your body, how to move it through your body, how to feel it into your yoni, and how to do that breath work, how to activate the sounds, and to step into the intuition, the feel, or the intention, and the visualization of what we're doing, so that it's not just those squeezes, but it's actually a squeeze with sounding and breath and visualization. Super important for all those reasons in there. So that's my Explore Your Pelvic Floor class. And then I have Discovering Bigger and Bolder Orgasms for Men. That's a class that helps men learn the difference between ejaculation and orgasm, that those are really two separate events, and that when you can start separating those, you get to have full body orgasms, and you get to have multiple orgasms, which most people don't know that that's available for men. Men can have multiple orgasms just as readily, easily as women can, and more so. Like we can all learn how to be more multi-orgasmic. It's super sweet to play with that orgasmic energy and get it through our bodies. Again, so that one is for the men, and discovering bigger and bigger and bolder orgasms. And then of course, I have Soulful Intimacy for Couples, which is a really sweet program for couples to have some really fun experiences together. We will do some communication, but it's fun communication. It's not like, boring, icky stuff. It's fun. I mean, some of those communication things that we get out there are pretty intense, and rough, but this one is just a basic, easy one to do so that we can really tap into the sweetness of what communication is. We tap into how to bring that coherency between our chakras and to line our bodies up in a way that we're building coherency and weaving our energies together so that we're connecting in a deeper way, in a soulful, intimate way with one another. And that's what that class does. So these classes are housed in Facebook right now. Each one of them is in a private Facebook group. And when somebody buys a program, they're in the program for a period of time, and then they get to do the videos, and you get to do it all at your own pace, and you get to do it in your own way and in the privacy of your own home. It's a beautiful way to begin this journey on the tantric path and learning just how to be more masterful with your own energy and how you get to be the one that activates this part of your body and your energy.
Huh. This is kind of a Debbie Downer subject, but do you work with abuse victims, sexual abuse victims?
I do a little bit. It's not my expertise. However, when we're dealing with sexual energies, so many people have been sexually abused. And I do say people because a lot of men have been abused, and we're seeing that more and more and more. That comes to the surface of how many men are abused. So this whole thing of sexual abuse has been, it's been around for a long time. It's not something new, but it's coming to the surface more, and people are starting to talk about it more, and they're starting to have they're remembering what's happened to them. So when it comes up in a session, then I obviously will deal with that and help somebody get through that. I have different modalities of healing that I work with people on this. I help them to transform that, what was happening to them, and help them to overcome the trauma of what they've experienced in their bodies. I'm not a person that's going to go looking for it. There's other schools of thought on that, to go look for, hey, you're having this problem, it's because this thing happened to you in the past. I'm not that person. I'm a person who believes in, like, let's work with pleasure and bring more pleasure into this body and be present here and now and focus on right here, right now. And so that's my philosophy around that, is that if trauma shows up and you get a memory of something, then by all means, let's deal with it and we'll handle it right here, right now. But in this place where you're at right now, that's not happening to you. We're in a place of, like, let's open up this pleasure body and have some pleasure in the body.
Right.
Let's go through that. Like I was saying before, when we open up these channels in our body, the energetic channels in our body, then if we're doing it in a smooth, easy way, I've heard of I've heard of people saying, I can make you have a Kundalini awakening. Good God. I don't want to be forced to have a Kundalini awakening, because if I'm not ready, it's going to be painful in one way or another. it's going to be not so nice. And so if my body's ready for that Kundalini awakening, it's really a sweet place to be. It's big and it's powerful, but it's a really sweet place to be versus pushing through something that I'm not ready to have right now. And I think that what's happened is there'll be a block, there'll be something that's there, and the energy doesn't care if there's a block or not. It's going to push it through. And then all of a sudden you're having to deal with this psychological aspect that you weren't ready to deal with in that moment. That's my belief on what happens oftentimes when people are forced into a Kundalini awakening when they're not ready, is that we're triggering and opening up the doors that aren't ready to be opened. And the Kundalini will push through that. So that's what happens with it. Do you have any? Oops, you're muted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, I keep losing you, so I mute myself because I'm going, oh man. Because I want to hear you, and it's not happening for me over here. Could you tell us about your book or books? I'm not sure how many books you've written.
I co-authored a book. Balance for Busy Moms. I was one of the authors in this book. I think there was it was a compilation of 20 authors that we all wrote an article in that book. So Balance for Busy Moms. It's a sweet little book that's out there for people to have. Obviously the moms who are super stressed and busy. And so in that book, my article is about how to take care of yourself and to step in and do some self-care and be able to put the kids aside for a minute and be able to care for yourself and have that self-care. Like I said earlier, is the loving myself awake practice is something that, I highly recommend to everybody that do this every single day. Take 5 minutes of your day. The guided meditation is 20 minutes because I'm guiding you through the whole process. But when I do mine, if I have other things that are going on, which, I like to start with my loving myself awake and then get up and go in the sauna for an hour and read. I'm doing some spiritual readings in my sauna every day for an hour. And then I do my yoga practice. So loving myself awake takes me between 5 and 10 minutes, but it's a way to bring awareness and attention into every part of my body. And I'm bringing it through the modality of touch and breath. And again, sound and intention. So that's where I go with it. Like I said, that book is out there for people to really tap into self-care and how they can be more with themselves and like take that few moments to breathe. I mean, sometimes we get so active in our lives and we're so busy that we forget to take care of ourselves. And that's critically important.
Or just stressed out, and we need to take that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before it explodes, take some time, take a time out, do some breath work, and come back into yourself. Come back into the place of like, okay. I'm okay. I can breathe and I can feel my body and I have all the senses in my body. So, yeah.
Well, I kind of want to cut this short because I keep losing you. And I want to hear what you have to say. And hopefully everything got recorded. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Lisa. Go to letstalktantra.com. Check out Lisa. And thank you for viewing tonight. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me and Lisa on Facebook. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks, everybody.